This dangerous cold is raising concerns for people living in Chicago's park encampments.
WGN's Angelica Sanchez has more on that from the people who are worried the most about the risky methods used by people to get warm.
At 2:18 a.m., the platform lies nearly deserted. The Red Line train glides into the station, its arrival announced by that familiar, piercing metallic shriek. Doors hiss open, releasing a surprising rush of warm air, offering a fleeting, almost visceral sense of relief. A man boards, his backpack clutched tightly against his chest, not casually carried, but fiercely protected. It seems to be the last bastion of security he has left in the world. A few seats away, a woman remains perfectly motionless, eyes half closed, hood drawn up. She attempts to melt into the background, to become invisible in plain sight, neither seeking attention nor causing disturbance. Her sole ambition, to endure until sunrise, to escape the brutal grip of the cold. Outside, a relentless wind tears through the tracks. But inside, this train transcends its intended purpose, transforming into an unexpected sanctuary. A mobile waiting room, a provisional heater, a precious few hours of indoors, accessible even to those with virtually nothing. And for anyone familiar with Chicago, the stark, uncomfortable truth is already apparent. When the cold truly bites, the city sharpens into a dual reality. Some find warmth and safety at home. Others embark on a ceaseless journey through the night. Welcome to U.S. Homeless Secrets. Here, we illuminate these obscured narratives with clarity and respect. We commit to avoiding graphic depictions, shaming, harassment, or any encouragement of harm or unlawful acts. Our unwavering focus remains on the profound human reality, the critical need for public safety, and the development of solutions that uphold fundamental human dignity. For the safety and privacy of individuals, names and all identifying details have been altered. Some narratives presented are composites, meticulously constructed from recurring patterns documented by dedicated outreach teams, public agencies, and rigorous, credible research. Tonight's investigation delves into one of the most challenging and uncomfortable realities facing modern America. Chicago Homeless Encampments 2025, CTA Night Trains, street sweeps, and the battle to survive the cold. Because at the heart of every debate, every grievance, every frustrated query of why is this happening, lies a fundamental question. If a city struggles to simultaneously safeguard its public spaces and protect its human inhabitants, what does that reveal about the very system we have constructed? Part 1. The numbers are real, but the reality is bigger than the numbers. Before we delve into the visible signs of tents, the journeys on trains, or the disruptive nature of street sweeps, a crucial truth must be acknowledged. Homelessness, by its very nature, is measured imperfectly. It's inherently challenging to quantify a crisis that individuals are compelled to conceal. The most widely referenced national metric is the point-in-time hit count, a single-night tally conducted each January, encompassing individuals in shelters and those unsheltered. While HUD mandates these counts for continuums of care and defines them as a one-night snapshot, they are useful, yet inherently limited. HUDexchange.info. This limitation is significant because the term homelessness encompasses far more than just the individual visible beneath a bridge. It also includes the family seeking refuge in their car, relocating discreetly each morning before dawn, the diligent worker relying on a cheap weekly motel until a single reduced paycheck shatters their fragile stability, the student navigating a precarious existence, cycling between relatives with no lease, no key, no genuine sense of home, and the individual couch surfing, maintaining a veil of silence, fearing that the shame of their situation could jeopardize their employment. Thus, while public discourse often fixates on visible homelessness, a significant portion of the crisis remains tragically out of view. Nationally, the escalating pressure is undeniable. HUD's most recent annual homelessness assessment report, AHAR, utilizing 2024 data, documented record-high homelessness, clearly indicating a system struggling under immense strain. HUD user. This trend profoundly impacts Chicago, as every major metropolitan area grapples with the same unforgiving equation. Surging demand plus escalating costs plus insufficient capacity equals an increasing number of individuals left without shelter. When this reality takes hold, the city doesn't merely look different. It fundamentally operates differently. Sidewalks are repurposed as sleeping areas. Underpasses transform into makeshift storage. Public transit becomes a de facto extension of the shelter system. 911 dispatchers increasingly manage mental health crises. Small businesses are forced into roles as cleanup crews, and parks evolve into contested territories. Amidst this complex landscape, distinct experiences emerge. Residents contend with feelings of unease or sheer exhaustion. Workers find themselves caught in a difficult bind, torn between empathy and the palpable chaos. And individuals living on the streets often perceive themselves as an inconvenience the city wishes to eradicate, rather than human beings in need of stabilization. This convergence of experiences explains why this issue is so volatile. Everyone involved is responding to a profoundly real, deeply felt reality. Part 2. Winter changes everything, and it turns housing policy into life or death. In Chicago, winter is far more than a mere seasonal backdrop. It is an undeniable, powerful force of nature. The cold doesn't simply inflict pain, it cruelly compresses time itself. As temperatures plummet, an individual without shelter finds their options dwindling, their safe hours shrinking, and their margin for error vanishing. This is precisely why warming centers are so critically important. The city of Chicago maintains a robust network of these centers, frequently located in public buildings and community spaces, specifically designed to offer refuge from dangerously cold conditions. All Chicago. Yet, here lies a formidable challenge. Even where warming centers are available, individuals often encounter significant barriers that remain largely invisible to the public. Distance, a daunting obstacle particularly when carrying all your worldly possessions. Limited operating hours, as many locations do not provide overnight shelter. Acute safety concerns stemming from past trauma, fear of theft, or overwhelming crowded environments. Complex health realities, including untreated mental illness, the debilitating effects of withdrawal or physical disabilities, and rigid rules that often clash with the realities of life on the streets, such as restrictions on bags, partners, pets, or strict curfews. Consequently, winter engenders a painful paradox. The city may extend an offer of assistance, but the very path to access that help can remain impossibly arduous to navigate. When warmth becomes unattainable, individuals are left with a singular, desperate choice. They must seek out any environment that offers even a semblance of safety beyond the exposed open air. This is how transit trains are woven into their narrative. This is how subterranean corridors become central to their existence. This is how the city's very infrastructure transforms into an unwitting map for survival. Part 3. CTA Night Trains. When a transit line becomes a lifeline. It is vital to proceed with utmost care and respect here. We are not advocating for rule breaking, nor are we providing instructions on how to utilize public transit as shelter. Instead, we are meticulously describing a pervasive reality that is intimately understood by both dedicated outreach workers and regular riders. Chicago's extensive rail system boasts several lines operating 24 hours a day, most notably the red and blue lines, as confirmed by CTA schedules. ArcGIS +1. In the depths of winter, this round-the-clock operation takes on profound significance. For someone with absolutely nowhere else to turn, 24 hours doesn't signify convenience. It represents a heated, essential refuge that persists long after all other options have ceased to exist. Aboard the late-night cars, two distinct Chicagos often converge under the same stark fluorescent glow. Weary individuals returning from late shifts, quiet and drained. People clutching their few belongings with the intensity of guarding a precious heartbeat. Compassionate outreach teams navigating the aisles gently, extending referrals, essential supplies, and vital human contact. And operators striving to balance operational safety, strict policy, and the undeniable truth that someone's very life might hang in the balance on that train tonight. This is precisely where the city's inherent moral tension manifests in stark, real-time clarity. A train is not, by design, a shelter. But no individual should be forced to choose between the deadly risk of freezing outdoors and the indignity of being treated as an inconvenience indoors. When the public expresses, "I'm tired of seeing this," their fatigue often stems from a deeper unease, a perception that the city is losing its grip on order and stability. However, upon closer examination, what is truly unfolding is the profound collapse of a housing and health system, its consequences spilling tragically into the public domain. This brings us to the next, quite literal, layer of this crisis. Part 4. The city under the city, pedway lower levels, and the places people hide from wind. Beneath Chicago's bustling surface lies a sprawling underground network, one that often goes entirely unnoticed by casual visitors. The pedway system, an intricate web of roughly 5 miles of connecting passages and links throughout downtown, was originally designed to allow people to navigate between buildings, safely shielded from the full fury of winter's assault. Fox 32 Chicago. On the most unforgiving days, these subterranean corridors transform, feeling like an entirely different urban landscape. Warmer, cleaner, faster. Yet even here, in the quietest corners, tucked near stairwells, obscured behind columns, one can discern the subtle indicators. A backpack carefully stowed against a wall. An individual sitting perfectly still, attempting desperately to remain unseen. A posture that silently pleads, "I just need to survive this night." Beyond the pedway lies the broader reality of the city's lower levels. Underpasses, multi-layered roadways, and countless sheltered pockets where the biting wind loses some of its brutal force. These spaces were engineered for traffic flow and urban infrastructure. But when stable housing becomes an unattainable luxury, people are compelled to repurpose whatever existing structures can offer a modicum of protection. For survival, by its very nature, cannot pause for policy debates. This critical reality inevitably creates friction. Residents seek clear and safe public thoroughfares. Businesses strive to avoid blocked doorways or nearby sanitation challenges. Individuals experiencing homelessness desperately desire safety from theft, violence, and environmental exposure. And the city, often seeking rapid resolution, demands order. It is at this volatile intersection that street sweeps enter the narrative. Part 5. Street Sweeps. Why clearing doesn't mean solving. When visible encampments emerge, the public frequently demands immediate intervention. City leaders typically respond with cleanup operations, enforcement actions, imposition of restrictions, and forced relocations. But here is the fundamental truth. Clearing a physical site is distinctly different from stabilizing a human life. The U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness, USIC, has consistently stressed that effective encampment responses must prioritize human-centered, health-focused strategies. Their guidance underscores that displacement without offering genuine housing and supportive services merely shifts the problem, often escalating harm. City of Chicago. These sweeps inflict a brutal reset. Individuals are deprived of precious rest. Vital contact with outreach workers is severed. Essential documents, life-sustaining medication, and the small, personal items that underpin any hope of a housing process are lost. And people are dispersed, often into even less visible and more perilous areas. To the general public, a cleared city block might appear to signify progress. Yet, for an individual living outside, the experience can feel like a devastating declaration. My entire existence has just been violently reset to zero. Furthermore, 2024 brought a significant shift in the legal landscape. The U.S. Supreme Court decision in City of Grants Pass v. Johnson fundamentally altered how many municipalities interpret the legal boundaries for enforcing public camping ordinances. Data lumos. However, a court ruling, no matter how significant, does not spontaneously generate new housing units, additional shelter beds, crucial treatment slots, dedicated case managers, comprehensive discharge planning, or expanded addiction recovery capacity. Therefore, if a city's primary response is rooted in enforcement, without concurrently constructing genuine pathways to exit homelessness, what is the inevitable outcome? Individuals do not simply vanish. They are displaced, and the same profound suffering merely re-emerges elsewhere. You cannot cure a fever simply by concealing the thermometer. Part 6. What actually works? A balanced chain that protects dignity and public safety. No single program, in isolation, can eradicate homelessness. What proves effective is a resilient chain of interconnected solutions, robust enough to counter the complex chain of its underlying causes. 1. Winter survival that meets people where they are. While warming centers are undeniably life-saving, their efficacy is maximized when seamlessly integrated with accessible transport options, extended operating hours during periods of extreme cold, transparent and widespread public communication, and proactive outreach teams capable of directly connecting individuals to subsequent steps, rather than merely providing a single warm night. Chicago's warming center network forms a crucial component of this immediate support layer. All Chicago. 2. Crisis response that doesn't default to police. When the root issue is behavioral health, the most appropriate and effective response is consistently clinician-led whenever feasible. This acknowledges a fundamental truth. The street is not a hospital, and incarceration is not a form of treatment. 3. Housing with support, not just a key. For individuals grappling with chronic instability, severe mental illness, or deeply entrenched trauma, housing achieves its greatest impact when coupled with sustained support services. Services that do not dissipate after a single missed appointment. Prioritizing stability first creates the foundational environment where true recovery can begin. 4. Shelter designed for real life. Many individuals actively avoid traditional shelters due to a confluence of factors. Potential trauma triggers, profound safety concerns, the forced separation of couples or beloved pets, insufficient storage for personal belongings, overcrowding and incessant noise. Effective shelter models, therefore, incorporate safer layouts, secure storage, trauma-informed approaches, and clearly defined pathways into permanent housing. 5. Encampment responses built around exits. When an encampment necessitates clearing, a humane and truly effective response must include concrete offers of dignified placement, genuine connections to necessary services, sufficient time and coordinated effort rather than mere removal, and the diligent protection of essential belongings and crucial documents. This holistic approach directly aligns with federal best practice guidance, which vehemently emphasizes housing-focused, coordinated interventions over cycles of churn and displacement. City of Chicago. 6. Prevention, because the cheapest, most humane solution is stopping the fall early. The most cost-effective and compassionate solution to homelessness lies in preventing it from taking root. Often, the descent into homelessness begins with a singular, devastating shock. An unexpected rent increase, an overwhelming medical bill, a drastic reduction in job hours, the anguish of family breakup, the terror of domestic violence, or the unchecked spiral of untreated mental health. Effective prevention strategies encompass immediate short-term rental assistance, robust eviction diversion programs, comprehensive benefits navigation support, assistance with critical ID replacement, and hospital discharge planning that ensures individuals are not simply released onto the streets. Because once a person has endured months in survival mode, the arduous climb back to stability becomes exponentially more difficult, and ultimately more costly for society as a whole. Outro, what Chicago is asking all of us. If you have stayed with us this long, you have chosen not to look away. And that, in itself, is profoundly important, because it is precisely through ignoring this crisis that we allow it to calcify into a permanent fixture. Here's the stark lesson Chicago is imparting to America in 2025. A city can construct towering skyscrapers that pierce the clouds, and yet still have its citizens seeking refuge on public trains because the basic comfort of warmth remains an unattainable luxury. We can engage in endless debates about what constitutes fairness, But winter, with its unforgiving grip, does not negotiate. Therefore, the true challenge before us is not a false dichotomy between compassion and public order. It is the complex but vital task of constructing a system capable of restoring the vitality of public spaces by first restoring the fundamental stability of human lives. Because, unequivocally, sidewalks must be clear and accessible. Parks should be sanctuaries for families. Public transit must instill a sense of safety. And small businesses should not be burdened with biohazard cleanup. And equally unequivocally, human beings experiencing crisis must never be treated as disposable refuse. Illness should not be penalized as a moral failing. Survival should not be the punishing price of poverty. So here's what each of us can do this week, in a practical, safe, and dignified manner. Educate yourself on the locations of warming centers in your community, and share that vital information responsibly. All Chicago, actively support reputable outreach organizations that forge pathways to housing and facilitate critical treatment connections, moving beyond mere one-night relief. Advocate strongly for the establishment of dedicated behavioral health crisis teams, ensuring that law enforcement officers are not compelled to serve as the default mental health system. Urge your leaders to allocate funding towards proactive prevention and genuine pathways out of homelessness, rather than perpetuating endless cycles of displacement. Refuse to dehumanize. While you are not expected to place yourself in danger, nor tasked with solving every single aspect of this crisis, you can absolutely reject the corrosive habit of normalizing human suffering. Now, we invite you to share your perspective. Where are you watching from today? And what, in your assessment, does your city most urgently require right now? More affordable housing, enhanced access to treatment, improved crisis response, more robust prevention efforts, or more effective management of public spaces? Please share your thoughts in the comments below, maintaining a respectful and human-centered tone. Subscribe to U.S. Homeless Secrets for more responsible, policy-informed narratives that remain grounded in reality and committed to seeking viable solutions. Because silence is the breeding ground for crises. But focused attention, when meaningfully coupled with informed action, is how communities truly transform. This has been U.S. Homeless Secrets. Thank you for joining us. And always remember, somewhere in Chicago tonight, the final train is already making its quiet arrival.